There's a moment, usually somewhere around 45, where you look in the mirror and think, what is happening to me? Your weight has always been a battle. Up and down, lose some, gain it back. You never reached your dream weight, but you were okay with that. You knew how to pull things back when they got out of hand. And now that's gone. The belly that keeps growing no matter what you do. The nights you wake up at 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. The irritability that makes you feel like a stranger in your own skin. You've seen the posts about HRT. Your doctor said one thing, someone online said the opposite. And while you're trying to figure out who to believe, your hormones don't wait. Every year, without the right support, the gap between what your body needs and what it can produce gets wider. Bone density drops, muscle becomes harder to build and easier to lose. What feels manageable today becomes significantly harder to reverse in 5 years. This isn't about fear, it's about timing. And that's exactly what this video is for. But before we go any further, I know what some of you are already thinking. Isn't HRT dangerous? Didn't some study prove it causes cancer? I hear this every single time, and I want to address it head on, because if that fear is sitting in the back of your head, nothing I say will land. The fear around HRT comes almost entirely from one study, the Women's Health Initiative, published in 2002. It made headlines. It terrified a generation of women and doctors. And its conclusions have been significantly misunderstood ever since. Here's what actually happened. That study used synthetic hormone analogs, not bioidentical hormones. The women in the study had an average age of 63, well past the window where hormone therapy is most effective and most safe. And the conclusions have since been substantially revised, including by researchers involved in the original study itself. The medical community has moved on. The fear hasn't caught up yet. And that gap between what the science actually says and what most women have been told is exactly why you're here, feeling confused while your symptoms keep getting worse. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Ina, and closing that gap is exactly what this channel is for. I've spent years diving deep into what's actually happening in our bodies, hormonally, metabolically, and everything in between. And what I see again and again in the women I work with and in the research is the same pattern. Women who were let down by outdated advice, given the wrong information, and simply never given any at all. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, because this is exactly what we talk about. So let's start at the very beginning with something most women have never actually been told. Most women have heard the term HRT their entire adult lives without ever being told which hormones we're actually referring to. So it's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. These are your primary steroid hormones, and they are not just reproductive hormones. They regulate your insulin sensitivity, your sleep, your mood, your ability to build muscle, your brain function, your bone density, your cardiovascular health, and so much more. When they decline, you feel it everywhere. And the important distinction is that HRT doesn't replace your hormones, it supplements them. Even after menopause, your body still produces small amounts through your adrenal glands. There's always a baseline. HRT supports that baseline when it's no longer enough. I think about it the same way I think about my own thyroid medication. I was on it for years when I went through a phase when I was strictly against medication and wanted to solve it naturally. And I tried hard, and it worked for a while, but long term it didn't. Not because natural approaches are wrong, but because my thyroid gland is simply too small to produce enough of its own. No lifestyle change fixes that, so I changed my perspective and went back on the hormones, and I haven't looked back. Nobody questions thyroid replacement. Nobody questions insulin. When a system can't produce enough of what it needs, we support it. Steroid hormones are no different. But, and this is where it gets critical, not all hormone replacement is the same, and that difference is everything. When someone tells you HRT is dangerous or HRT didn't work for me, the first question should always be, which kind? Because there is a fundamental difference between synthetic hormone analogs and bioidentical hormones. Synthetic analogs are chemically altered versions of hormones. They're designed to bind to your hormone receptors, but they're not structurally identical to what your body produces. Bioidentical hormones are. Molecularly, they are the same hormones your body has been making your entire life. That difference matters, not just on paper, and how your body responds, and how your liver processes them, and in what the risk profile actually looks like. But molecular structure is only part of the equation, because even with the right hormones, how you take them changes everything. Bioidentical hormones come in several forms: creams, gels, patches, oral tablets, and pellets, and they're not interchangeable. Oral hormones pass through your liver first, which means they get partially metabolized before they even reach your bloodstream. For some women, that's fine. For others, especially those with liver stress or metabolic challenges, it adds an unnecessary burden and increases certain risks. Transdermal options, creams, gels, patches, bypass the liver entirely. They absorb directly through the skin into the bloodstream. This is why most practitioners who work with bioidentical hormones tend to prefer this route. It's more predictable, more consistent, and easier to adjust. Pellets are a longer-acting option, implanted under your skin, releasing hormones steadily over several months. Some women love the consistency. Others find it harder to adjust the dose if something isn't right. There is no universally correct answer. What matters is matching the right form to the right woman, her symptoms, her metabolic situation, her lifestyle, and where she is in her hormonal transition. And this is exactly where I see things go wrong. Not because HRT doesn't work, but because the wrong form, the wrong dose, or the wrong timing can make a woman feel worse and convince her that HRT simply isn't for her. Even within estrogen alone, there are different forms. Estradiol is the primary metabolically active estrogen, the one that declines most significantly in perimenopause, and the one with the most impact on metabolism, mood, and bone density. Estriol is a much weaker form, primarily used for localized symptoms. Some women are prescribed estriol when what they actually need is estradiol and then wonder why nothing is changing. In reality, she just didn't get the right version of it, which brings me to something I want to address directly. There are risks, and you deserve to know what they actually are. The most commonly cited concern is breast cancer. Now, here's what the research actually shows. Bioidentical estrogen alone has not been shown to increase breast cancer risk in most studies, and some have even shown a reduced risk. The picture becomes more complex when progestins are added. Synthetic progestins, so the kind used in the Women's Health Initiative study. They have been associated with a modest increased risk. Bioidentical progesterone, according to research, including the large French E3N cohort study, does not appear to carry the same risk profile. The type of hormone matters enormously. Blood clots are another concern. This risk is largely associated with oral estrogen, which affects clotting factors as it passes through the liver. Transdermal estrogen, patches, gels, creams, has not been shown to significantly increase clotting risk in healthy women, according to multiple studies, including the ASTER trial. Then there are the side effects some women experience when they first start, like bloating, breast tenderness, headaches, mood fluctuations. These are almost always a sign that the dose needs adjusting, not that HRT needs to be stopped. I hear from women regularly who were put on a standard dose, felt terrible, and were told that's just how it is. It isn't. HRT requires fine-tuning. It requires a practitioner who actually listens, and it requires patience. The risks of HRT, when used correctly at the right time with the right form, are for most healthy women significantly lower than the risks of leaving hormonal decline completely unaddressed. On your cardiovascular system, your bones, your brain, and your metabolism. So, who does this actually apply to? And more importantly, is it you? The honest answer is not every woman needs HRT, but probably more women than you think. Here's why. Even after menopause, your body doesn't stop producing hormones entirely. Your adrenal glands continue to secrete small amounts. For some women, those with low stress levels, good sleep, a stable metabolism, that baseline is enough to feel okay. But look around. That describes maybe 10% of women today. For the rest of us, running on chronic stress, poor sleep, and a nervous system that's been in overdrive for years, that baseline isn't enough. The demand is simply higher than what the body can supply. And when that gap gets big enough, you feel it in your weight, in your mood, in your energy, in your sleep, in the mirror. So the question isn't really, do I need HRT? The better question is my body getting what it needs to function the way I want to live? If you're watching this, you're probably not ready to slow down. You're still in the middle of your life, working, showing up for the people you love, wanting to travel, wanting energy at the end of the day instead of just surviving until bedtime. You want to feel like yourself, not a tired, foggy, irritable version of yourself. Declining hormones don't have to mean declining quality of life. Let's start with what most of you came here for, the weight, specifically the belly fat that showed up uninvited and won't leave. When estrogen declines, your body's insulin sensitivity drops. Your cells become less efficient at pulling glucose out of the bloodstream, and chronically elevated insulin is the primary driver of fat storage, especially visceral fat. That's not a willpower problem, that's a hormonal problem. Now, bioidentical estrogen supports insulin sensitivity. It helps your cells respond to insulin more effectively, which means your metabolism can start doing what it's supposed to do. Excess fat, burn it, move on. And then progesterone, it regulates cortisol. And cortisol is the master switch between fat storage and fat burning. When progesterone is low, cortisol runs high. When cortisol runs high, your body protects its fat stores. Restoring progesterone can help break that cycle. This is why women on well-managed bioidentical HRT often describe a shift. Not overnight, not without the lifestyle work, but a shift where their body finally starts responding again, where the effort they put in actually lands. Now, before you close this video and start Googling how to get HRT, I need to tell you something important. HRT is not a magic pill. Women who start HRT without addressing the underlying stress load, the sleep, the nutrition, the movement, often feel some improvement, but not the transformation they were hoping for. It's because you cannot supplement your way out of a lifestyle that's still sending danger signals to your nervous system. HRT restores the hormonal foundation, but the foundation still needs something to build on. If you haven't watched my video on metabolic flexibility yet, I'll link it below. That's the groundwork that makes everything here actually land. But if you want a more personalized conversation, someone to look at your specific situation, your symptoms, your history, and help you map out what your body actually needs, you can book a free strategy call with me directly. The link is in the description. And until next time, remember, your body never needs to be fixed. It needs to be understood.